Fun to watch them come in. Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody out there. We're just waiting for people to enter the webinar. We just opened it up, and so we will start in 2 or 3 minutes.
This is worse than waiting for the plane to take off.
I miss planes.
Yes, I miss planes.
Yes.
Yep.
Planes.
I'm just going to wait another couple of minutes because I'm always late to these things. Like I
Yeah.
tried to log in at.
Well, and it is the Sweet 16, so people may be going back and forth. I can hear the Oregon State from the living room. So.
Is that basketball, Kathy?
Yes, I'm sorry, college basketball.
I don't know what that is.
My husband went to UCLA during the Wooden years, so we're
nice.
Which is
that was like golden era.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's why we watch Ted Lasso so much. So.
I love that show. It's so good.
It's based on John Wooden. The character's based on John Wooden. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that's why they have his pyramid of success in The Office.
I've seen the pyramid, but all sports things, just like.
I've watched that series 4 times in a row now. So,
I like made 4 different people watch it with me.
It just gets me right here. I just want to watch it. I want it to live with me.
Me too.
Anyway.
That's like my statement. If anyone can go away with anything from this talk is to watch Ted Lasso.
Watch Ted Lasso, yes. It's what we need right now. It's worth the $5 for a month of Apple Plus.
It's true.
Yes.
Waffle, what was the Wooden book we also read at Scorpion?
Oh yeah. Oh gosh. What was it, like the 16? No. I remember the cover of it. It's like I'm blanking.
It is blue and gold, right? Small. Yeah.
Let's see, Wooden book.
Like.
What is it?
Yeah, John Wooden is really the center of everything.
Yeah, Pyramid of Success.
Pyramid of Success is what it sounded like.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't remember. I mean, our company Mike, remember is that pyramid on the basketball court like
It
John
is.
Wooden's pyramid? Yeah, they
Uh-huh.
like put it on the basketball court. That's how
It
much.
was
they-
our version of his pyramid. So
Yeah.
yes.
It's your scriptures. It really is.
All right, well, we are at 1:02 and people are still drifting in, so I think we'll get started.
Okay.
I am Beth Whiteman. I'm the chair of the Department of English at CSUN, and I'd like to welcome you all here today. We are really thrilled to have this second panel, which includes a group of our alums, and that's, how can that be bad? So you may know that this is the second in a series of career panels for CSUN English majors in particular, but can be useful for anyone in the humanities as well. I will say that this panel series was a brainchild of our moderator today, Kathy Leslie, who's an alum, and I'll tell you a little bit more about her later, but we are very grateful to Kathy both for her ideas, her vigilance is the wrong word, but her persistence in bringing it to fruition and her support of the panel series. This will be available for people to watch afterwards. If you have to leave early, or if you have friends who weren't able to be here, they will have an opportunity to watch this one. The other one is also up on the English department's YouTube channel. So no worries if you suddenly have to run out and go to the beach and take a dip in the ocean on this beautiful sunny day. I don't have too much more to say other than to tell you a little bit about Kathy Leslie, who is our speaker today. And of course, what did I do? I just closed out Kathy's bio that she wanted me to read by accident. So hang on. Kathy is an alum, and I have known Kathy the entire time that I have been at the Department of English, which is now too many years. I think it's something like 18 and I'm starting to freak out. Yeah. Kathy has had a widely varied career. She is, as I said, one of our alums. She did our master's program and she has been very involved. She was a lecturer at CSUN, but she has had a varied career, including in retail and things that I'm forgetting because I can't find the bio. Oh my God. Anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Kathy, who will be moderating the discussion today about things other than publishing that English majors can do. It's very easy to fall into the, well, I'm in English, I have to do something with books, i.e. I have to be in publishing somehow. That is not at all the case. The English major is one of the most flexible majors out there in terms of what your career path might be. And we are very pleased to have some alums who are going to prove that to all of you today. So Kathy, I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Beth. It's an honor to be here. I'm really excited about the alums we have today and what they have to share with us. And we'll just pick up on something that Beth said. Yes, I think English is one of the most flexibles of careers, okay? And that's subject verb agreement there. It's the most flexible of careers. And I have a Wall Street Journal article, which I'll share with Wendy to put on our website, which shows that English majors typically don't start out with the starting salaries that graduates of the STEM fields do. However, over time, over the arc of the career, typically outpace them because the skills of an English major allow you to use your critical thinking, your reasoning, your communication skills to let you vault into leadership degrees, leadership positions. And I think that our alums right here are evidence of that. And they can tell us more about their individual journeys. So I'm going to go in the order of what I see you all on the screen, which is not alphabetical. So Rochelle, how about if you tell us a little bit about yourself? We're going to have everybody talk for 3-4 minutes and just give us a sort of a highlights of their career and their path. And then I think we'll all hear more about our alums' paths through the questions over the coming hour. So Rochelle.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Rochelle Youssef. I am a two-time CSUN alumni. Didn't actually go to, or didn't major in English for my undergrad. I majored in liberal studies, but majored in English for my master's when I came back. Shortly after I graduated with my undergrad, I started volunteering with a nonprofit, a literary nonprofit, and through that was able to start my career initially in a literary arts nonprofit. I worked there in membership for several years before transitioning to another nonprofit where I worked as a program manager. It was a sort of co-working space meets small business assistance for women and minority entrepreneurs. After doing that for a few years, I kind of got a little burnt out, truthfully, about nonprofits and the struggle that comes with that, which maybe we'll touch on a little bit later, but decided to come back to CSUN, where I now currently work as the Membership Engagement Coordinator for the CSUN Alumni Office. What I do in this role is not exactly captured in my title. I do membership acquisition and engagement, but also manage our volunteer stewardship and pipeline, as well as some of our mentoring platforms called Ask Matador, which I can also talk about a little bit later, and also a group called Homegrown, which is a group of CSUN alums who work on campus. So it's a little bit of everything, as well as managing marketing for some of our affinity partners. And it's nice to be here. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, Michael, how about, Michael, how about from you?
Thanks, Kathy. My name is Michael Burns. I am a senior marketing manager over at Wingman Marketing. I actually started my career outside of my English degree at the same company as WAFA, Scorpion Marketing. I was there for 5 years. And then decided to actually move on to a startup company. They just offered me an amazing offer that I couldn't really pass up, and I'd always kind of wanted to grow and kind of develop processes myself. Kind of touching on what Kathy spoke about at the beginning of the call is English majors are really good about critical thinking and wanting to grow. And for me, I've always wanted to be in a field that you have some ambition and you have some area to continuously learn. Just to make sure that I'm always kind of pushing to that next level, I also am currently the managing fundraising director at a local nonprofit here in Santa Clarita. One of the best parts about getting my English degree at CSUN, or one of the smartest things that I actually learned in Kathy's class, was just networking and interning in different fields. I originally thought I was going to be a professor, thought I was going to be a teacher, and I interned both in publishing and then in a celebrity news firm, believe it or not, in West Hollywood, and got some marketing connections there and kind of fell in love with that space. So my advice to everyone is always just, keep trying different things. Even if you think you have a path, there's no reason to try new ideas, especially when you're in your early 20s. Intern, do some freelance work, and start just developing both soft skills and hard skills that you can transfer.
Great, thank you, Michael. And there is no way it's been 5 years since you graduated. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Okay. Whew. As Beth says, time is too many years. Thank you so much. Another really valuable tip, but I'm sure we'll touch on again the need to get out there and see what else is out there. Yeah, thank you so much. Wafa, how about telling us your story?
Hello. I, similar to Mike, started working at Scorpion, but before that, I always thought I was going to be a teacher, and that's why I went to school. I majored in all the English degrees. I got an AA, BA, and MA in English. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to take this and become a teacher. And then when I was in grad school, I was lucky enough to be accepted into the TA program, which allowed me to teach composition courses at CSUN, and I loved it. But I also learned the struggle of an adjunct professor that nobody really talks about. Nobody, it was actually you, Kathy, who really you were the one I distinctly remember. This was the pivotal moment where everything changed for me, where you gave a talk to promote your internship class, and you told us how unstable the adjunct professor lifestyle could be. And that really stuck with me because I'm someone who loves stability. I like being able to know that I can pay my bills month to month. I don't have to worry about which classes I'm going to get this semester and not. So it was actually during that talk that I was like, okay, I need to pause and recalibrate my career plan, because I was like, I love teaching, but it's not going to give me the outcome that I wanted. So I actually took Kathy's internship program my last semester in grad school. And I'm so glad I did, because I interned with our CSUN's HR program and got insight into just like using the English degree outside of just teaching or publishing, which is like, even though I knew technically there you could do a lot with it, in my head, I was like, but I want to teach, so I don't have to think about anything else. So this really gave me like, okay, wait, you could actually do a lot with this. And after grad program, I got hired at Scorpion, like Mike, and I started as a content developer, and I wrote for our different clients. So Scorpion has a variety of different verticals we serve. And so I wrote for lawyers and plumbers and hospitals, finding a home and franchise. Like I loved writing for Mr. Rooter and Bloom and Blinds. And I did that for 2 years. And then I felt like I hit a peak with writing, like especially in that role, it's like writing day in and day out. And I was like, okay, I want to broaden my skill set and like broaden just what I can do. And luckily, a new position opened up for pre-launch SEO analysis or analyst. And so for those who don't know, because I didn't when I like first started, SEO stands for search engine optimization. And it's like the work you do to try to get to rank on Google, which if you told me that's what I would be doing like 10 years ago, I'd be like, I don't know who you are. Like, what is that? But that's what I did. And I learned a lot of like cool new things on how to analyze a website's health, like coming up with strategies to get clients to rank on page 1. And I did that for 2 years. So I worked in the pre-launch department, like in delivery. So like when clients first come to us, we build their website from scratch. And so I wanted to make sure they're set up for success before we pass them on to the post-launch, like marketing managers like Mike is. And so I did that for 2 years. And now I've moved on to Seo Manager. So I help clients, like I have my own set that I work on every month. And I just try to like get them to continue ranking on page 1, trying to drive in leads and traffic on all of that. So that's like my day-to-day now, which if you told me this 5-6 years ago, I'd be like, what? But yes, thanks, Kathy.
Thank you, Wafa. Yeah, I think you're really touching on something, and not to discourage anybody, because as Beth says, I think we always think when we major in English that we're going to do something with books and or teach, right? And so many of us, I mean, that's why I got my undergrad and my credential. And you know, it's not for everybody. And as we've discussed, and I think recent years have shown us, with every time there's an economic crunch, which inevitably comes, the contingent labor, the adjuncts suffer first and most. So in terms of stability, this is kind of one reason I want to put the panel together, to look for jobs where you know you can leave the house and you don't have to move back in, and to have a career ladder like you and Mike and everybody are, you know, going to discuss room to grow. And speaking of which, I think that's a great segue to our client, to our panelist here, who has grown and grown and grown, a tremendous success story, Shelley Thompson.
So like Rochelle, I am also a 2-time graduate from Cal State Northridge. I have my undergraduate degree in English literature. And after working for a bit at Cal State Northridge, I'm what people refer to as homegrown. I decided to jump back in and do a master's degree in educational leadership and policy studies with an emphasis in higher education. My career actually started as a student employee in the dean's office in the College of Humanities. So big fan of the English department for many reasons. And through that experience, after graduation, I wasn't really quite sure what I wanted to do. I was having a little bit of a crisis. I thought I was going to go to law school just because that's what it felt I needed to say. But that didn't work out, and I needed to find a job. So I started working as a clerical support or administrative support person in the dean's office. And because I was a recent graduate, I was given an opportunity to do some peer academic advising, kind of as a supplement to my regular job supporting the office. And I loved it. And the dean's office was very supportive. And as a result, I had an opportunity to move up in academic advising and work as a student services professional for many years, moving up to the director of the College of Humanities Student Services Center EOP Satellite, where I was advising English majors every day. That was quite a fun thing to do. And after about 22 years of doing that, I decided, okay, it's time to move up. And so I applied for a position as an administrator in the Office of Undergraduate Studies, which is where I work now. And I've been there since 2012. And I think others have already said this, never in my life could I have imagined, 18 years old, walking into Cal State Northridge as an English major, that I was gonna grow up to be a university administrator. I didn't even know what that meant. And frankly, I didn't know what it meant to be an academic advisor either. But it's a career path that I fell into, and it's a very fortunate accident. And it's really grown into quite a good career for me. I get to work with students still every day as an administrator. I am the student-facing part of the office. So I do a lot of writing of our student communications, some of it in my signature, but some of it for the signature of others. So I'm doing all kinds of writing in my job. I do correspond daily with various constituencies that might be parents, administrators, community members. So I still get a chance to use my English skills, and I love it. But the biggest surprise for me in my job is that I get to do a lot of work with technology, which is not something as an English major I expected to do or to be called upon to do. But I am the system administrator for our e-advising tutoring management platforms. And so I do all the setup on the back end, all the training, and I work with IT, and it's kind of much more technical than I ever expected I would be working in my career. So it's really nice to see everybody today.
Thank you, Shelley. These are such great panelists. I think we may have already worked through a couple of the questions, but I'm going to go back anyway. Since we're kind of on this thread, and even if you've responded to this, if there's anything else that occurs to you, want to elaborate it, I'm going to kind of combine two questions. As an undergraduate, what did you see yourself doing after graduation? You're going through with some kind of plan. And how did that vision evolve for you during your undergraduate career, if it did? And then what do you enjoy about your job that surprises you? And or as Shelley just said, what do you find that you're good at that you never in a million years saw yourself doing? Because I think this is one of the beautiful things about work, that it uncovers skills and talents in us that we never knew we had, which is another reason to keep an open mind about what might be worth trying as an English major. So, what did you see yourself doing, and maybe contrast that with what you are doing and how that might surprise you, or what thing in your daily job or your weekly work that really you never thought yourself doing and just really like, or find that you're really an ace at. So I think, Rochelle, let's start with you again.
Yeah, so I kind of touched a little bit on this, that when I first graduated undergrad, I was convinced I was going to work in publishing or something to do with literary arts. That's why I started volunteering with the literary nonprofit. And then, like I mentioned, I started working in a literary nonprofit. And between those two, I was also in the English master's program. And I think truthfully, I got burnt out. One of the things maybe people don't realize is when you love something, sometimes when it becomes your job, you don't love it anymore. And I think I spent a good amount of time, in the years after that, like not reading as much as I used to, not caring about literary events like I used to. And also, again, I mentioned there are difficulties in working for a nonprofit that I think can be really discouraging. One of them being pay, one of them being lack of room to grow, lack of benefits, things like that. And so, like WAFA, I was like, this is not for me. Like, I can't stay here hoping one day that I'll make enough money to move out. So that's kind of why I transitioned into a university career. I know for sure, and this is why I was in the nonprofit world, that I wanted to work in a situation where I felt like I was sort of serving or involved in the community in some aspect. And that's why I spent so many years working in nonprofits and didn't feel like I could quite leave that entirely. So the nice thing about working in a university in my current job is it still has that component of serving. a community or working in the community. It's a little bit different now. It's maybe a little bit more indirect than it was before. But it's been really nice to still feel like the work you're doing is making a difference. One of the programs I mentioned that I work with is called Ask a Matador, and sort of similar to this panel, the goal is to match alums with students who need help, specifically for career and professional development. So it's actually super exciting to be able to give back to students who were in the same exact position I was in when I was their age. So that's really exciting. Oh, Kathy, you're muted.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so interested in hearing what you have to say. I'm forgettable. And I think that you're bringing up a resource if students are listening, and I think we'll make this available afterward, but Ask a Matador is a wonderful resource. I think so often really finding out what this dream job that you have in mind actually entails is super helpful before you spend a lot of time, whether it's job shadowing or just doing research on your own. Really important to find out what that job would actually look like. So, so Ask a Matador, and I'm sure we'll get that information up afterwards. Michael, how about you?
So I thought that I was one of those people who went to college and didn't know when I got to college what I wanted to do. I started as a business major, then I was a humanities major, ended up being an English major. And I actually ended up leaving CSUN with 5 degrees in that 5-year period. So I didn't take extra time. I just kind of figured out a way to kind of overlap a lot of things. So not only am I an English major, I also have a degree in Asian American Studies and Cultural Studies. So for me, it was always, I'm that guy who's really curious. I actually started freelancing as a freelance writer for Scorpion while I was in the TA program, because it paid, I think back then, like $20 a page, and a page is 300 words. So if, I mean, you're doing 10 pages in a week, you're doing a good amount of work to paying your rent. Versus I think the TA stipend was like $500 or $600. So it was really helpful for me to be able to pay my own bills. I really enjoyed the work. And I thought to myself, why don't I look into doing this full time? And I reached out to Scorpion's HR department the week before I graduated with my master's, and said, hey, I saw you guys have some writing opportunities on board. Is it possible for me to come on full time? And they said, come on over in the next hour. And I said, okay, no problem. So I let them know I'm in t-shirt and jeans, coming back from CSUN. Is that okay? They're like, totally fine, no issues. And I'm like prepping and getting ready on the road so that I'm, have some talking points. One of the things that I really enjoyed about Scorpion was that everlasting learning opportunities. And as a marketing manager now, I started as a writer back then. Marketing manager now, I now look at PPC, so pay-per-click, LSAs, local service ads, like all sorts of more numeric or mathematical things to help people get leads. And I never thought it'd be in math or anything that is more towards advertising and looking at data. And I love it every single day, logging in and seeing, what's the conversion rate on something, what's the average cost for Houston car accident in the local market, everything that lets me really help drive home leads to my client, which is really helping them pay their bills and feed their families. For me, it is anytime I'm getting them more business, I'm making sure they're feeding their families and their clients are feeding their families. So I do feel like there's an honorable element to marketing that a lot of people overlook. But I actually kind of fell in love with that while working with Scorpion and Wingman.
I'll have to stop being so interesting. I keep forgetting to unmute. That is a really, really good point, Michael. I think, one of the things we hear most often from English majors, I hate math, I'm afraid of math, math scares me. And I think most people kind of lump data in with math, which is a wonderful segue, because Shelley Thompson, as she said earlier, in true English major style, has written out all the answers to her questions. And one of the answers actually dealt with this. So I'm hoping she'll elaborate a little more. And I know we're drifting from the question, but anything you want to talk about what surprises you that you never, I know you talked about that a little bit, but anything else that surprises you never thought you'd see yourself doing? And were you afraid of math?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was terrified of math. I'm still terrified of math, but that doesn't mean it goes away. The thing I think that surprised me is that I learned that there were ways to work with and support students outside of teaching a class. And that's really the most fulfilling part of my job, is supporting students and advising students. So it was nice to kind of have my mind open that there were other ways of interacting with students, and to do it in a higher ed setting. I didn't ever imagine that. I thought it was K-12 all the way. On the data math thing, I was one of those English majors that took math ideas at CSUN. I took it my first year, I think, first semester, and I was so relieved to get that done. And I thought, I will never take another math class as long as I live. However, when you go to grad school, depending on what you decide to study, sometimes you get to take more math. And so I got to take an educational statistics and research class for my master's degree. And while I was terrified, it's probably the best class I could have taken. And if I were now, I would say, I tell my students, don't be afraid, try statistics if you can. I think the class is incredibly valuable. You can apply it across your life, personally, professionally, and it's a very good investment of time. And if you've already graduated or you're graduating soon, jump in, take a class, credit, no credit at community college, and just familiarize yourself with basic statistics. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And so what happens in professionally is that you're not always going to work with English majors. You're going to work with people who are social scientists, who are STEM people, and they're going to want data, and they're going to want you to present your findings and your suggestions kind of benched in data. And so you really do need to become savvy, connect with your institutional research department if you have one, study market trends. You can't just look at what you're accomplishing when you present reports. You have to look at gaps as well. And so to really kind of embrace all of that, even if it's a little intimidating, because I think it does have its rewards professionally.
I was just going to add, though, I know we talked a little bit about skills and stuff like that you use, but research is one of those ones that I'm surprised you end up using so often. Maybe not in the same exact way you were doing it as a student, but similarly, where you're having to go find some information, gather it, put it together, and utilize it in whatever you're doing. So kind of similar to what Shelley was talking about in terms of data and stuff. It's not just being able to analyze data, but it's also going out, getting finding the research, figuring out like what's current, what's working, and applying it to your role.
Yeah, I think these are such excellent points. If anyone's in the audience who came to the first panel, a lot of what the publishing people talked about is the same thing. I mean, publishing is also a business. And so if you are publishing books or any kind of media, you're looking to just what Michael and Wafa and Shelley are talking about, the trends, what people are looking for, how much money are you going to sink into something? And you have to do that research. So and education, I know Shelley can speak to that, and I'm a former secondary teacher. Especially if you're moving up the educational ladder in education, you are going to be dealing with statistics every single day, data. So this really valuable advice, community college or wherever else you can get. Lose your fear of statistics is a valuable career investment. How about you, Wafa? We didn't mean to leave you till last, but this is just so exciting. Anything, I know you talked a little bit already about what you thought you'd do, and then what you ended up doing. Anything else that surprises you about your daily job that you didn't? Because I have to say, Wafa, knowing you as a graduate student, I wouldn't have seen you doing what you're doing either. But you're so fabulous at it. So
thanks. I hope so. Yeah, I think kind of like what Shelley and Rochelle and Mike were already touching on is I didn't think I would like data as much as I do now. Like with SEO, it's a lot of like, things are just changing all the time. And like, it's all thanks to Google. Like they're both the best and the worst. Like they're our taskmasters. So just keeping up to date with like the algorithms they produce and like the trends that they put forth, and just making sure we apply those to our current clients right now, and like staying up to date with like best practices. I never saw myself doing that. Like if you were to tell me this before I actually started doing it, kind of like similar to statistics, I'd be like, nope, that sounds very scary. I don't want to do it. But it's actually pretty fun. Like it's what keeps things like interesting for me, because no 2 days are the same. And like it's like both frustrating and so rewarding because you can try a new strategy and it might not work, and then you have to like try something new. But then it's like if you figure out some like what works, it's like the best feeling in the world. So I think just that kind of thing, like doing these strategies like in SEO, doing technical SEO, things like redirects and backend stuff, like I never like would have seen myself doing that, especially with technology. I'm not the best, so I'm constantly learning. But I do enjoy it. It's very fascinating just to see, because I'm like the best consumer of all of this, like Googling things, shopping, and all of that. So it's really cool to see just like how things appear in front of you like online. So I think, yeah, that's like surprising, and surprising they still want to keep me. So like I think that's like it's been fun.
I'm not surprised anybody wants to keep you, Wafa. But you know, you all, I'm going to throw a curve at you because it's not on our list of questions, but what you all are saying, I know if I were an undergrad listening to this and, you know, CEO and not CEO, SEOs and backends and things, I'd be going, oh, I hear them, but I don't believe them because that still sounds scary. Does anybody, and you don't have to go in order and everybody doesn't have to talk, but does anybody want to tell us literally how in the workplace did you overcome that? Was there training involved? Was it part of a vocabulary that you gradually, you walk in going, I don't know what an SEO is. How did that happen for you in the workplace? Did any of you lost your fear of what you thought was this monolithic knowledge base that you couldn't touch? So anybody wants to unmute, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Okay, since I'm already unmuted, I'm just gonna hop in. Yes, absolutely. Like when we first, I don't know if this is similar with you, Mike, but like when I first entered Scorpion, people would casually say, like now I realize I'm doing it too, but like they throw around words like PPC or SEO or like getting conversion rates up, and I'm just like, holy moly, like I don't know what that is. And honestly, like Scorpion's been such a blessing because they truly value training, and they're like they'll see skills or talent in someone and they realize like, yeah, we can teach them as long as they have like that thing they're looking for. So they've been really great about like teaching us and giving us the space to like learn like what all of this is, and also just showing us like, you know, we when I first entered, we had 4 weeks training, like orientation kind of thing, where it's like we learned about every role in the company, and there are a lot, and everyone from each department came and spoke to us. So I think that was a great way to like enter into that realm. But also like if for the undergrads listening or other people who are like, I really want to learn more about it, just Google it. Like honestly, even just like learning what these acronyms mean can be so helpful, and you could see if you like it or not just by that way.
Okay, cool. Anybody else want to tell us?
Yeah, I have a personal example of actually with me stepping into a brand new role, because I used to be first a writer, then project manager, now I'm marketing. So project manager, for everyone's understanding here, usually is like a pre-launch person. You're building the website, setting up SEO with someone like Wafa, and you're kind of like the guy behind the curtain until the website takes off. Marketing, you take off and you run with the campaign forever. When I had to learn about PPC, which is pay-per-click, and LSAs, which are local service ads, I just went and sat down next to the guy who does it for our company and said, I want to just ask you questions as you're working and watch what you're doing, and started. And he's like, cool, I'll show you what I'm doing, but here are these podcasts you should listen to. Podcasts are an amazing way to get almost like an entry point into a field. For SEO, I listen to SEO rants on Spotify. They always have amazing tips, ideas. And that's a great way just to just enter into a space. And then there's forums, there's Wafa, what's the name of the Clubhouse is like a industry forum that you have to be invited into that also will teach you about these things. The best advice is honestly start asking questions, start becoming involved in groups, and that's how you'll learn quickest.
Great.
I was also going to say, I have never received any training for any job I've ever done except for Starbucks. Like, straight up, everything has been, here you go, like, figure it out. And I think one of the the most important things you can do is not assume you don't know how to do something. I mean, yes, you don't know how to do something, but that doesn't mean you can't figure it out. And I've spent more time just sort of, like Wafa was saying, Googling stuff and just figuring it out for myself. But I think even, to Kathy's point, like, oh, maybe I don't care about data. You're listening to this. I don't care about marketing. I don't care about SEO. I don't care about stats, whatever. Here's what I think that we have as English majors that is really, really helpful, that I think I've noticed about myself, is all of this stuff, when you're looking at it, your ability to put it together into a story that makes sense is so important. It's maybe more important than you straight up knowing how to do, all of this data and statistics and all that stuff. Like, you being able to take this and put it in a way that makes sense to people is so important. And I think that's one of the things you do learn as an English major, is how to tell a story, whatever text you have or whatever project you're working on, and make it make sense to people.
Michelle, that's awesome, because that leads me right into my next question, which is, how do you use the skills and knowledge from your English degree in your daily work? And if it's pertinent, how has the knowledge acquired from that degree helped you to then not only do the work, but to advance in your career? Because I think we've seen everybody in this forum and have advanced already in a fairly short time. So if anybody wants to speak to that, or we can go around. So Shelley hasn't talked for a while. So how about you, Shelley?
I'm going to echo what the other panelists I think have already said, and that is really the research, critical thinking, and problem solving skills that I attained through my English degree come in handy every single day on my job. And there's no way I could have been as successful in my career without that foundation. And I think Rochelle said it well. I mean, I can learn all the other technology skills, everything else I need to know. I can look at training guides. I can work in training environments. I can learn it. But if I don't have those core skills, it's not going to work. And I need to be able to convey, pretty dense academic policy information to 18-year-olds, to parents of 20-year-olds, that kind of thing. So the flexibility that I gained in terms of my knowledge from English really has come in handy in those areas.
That's an excellent point. I think often as English majors, we don't know how much of that we have until we're working with people from other fields whose degrees haven't emphasized that. And then, as Shelley says, we have to translate for them. And thank goodness we have the skills to do that. So that's wonderful. Anybody else want to touch on that? What in your degree you use on a daily basis, and maybe that you didn't even think about it as you were acquiring the degree?
I think for me, it's probably as like an English major, having to take a bunch of different literature or critical thinking classes where I wasn't always completely comfortable in like developing that wealth of knowledge or understanding Foucault and all these other things, is being able to not be intimidated, take it in, and then be able to explain to someone else. When the type of clients I work with go from everything from legal to real estate to hospitals. So being able to read a press release from them or a really technical document, and they're like, okay, everyone needs to know about X. I'm like, okay, here are the 3 main points from your article, synthesized, here's a quick blog topic, and let's work through it. So being able to take some really dense material and make it malleable for someone and make it approachable, and also being able to really speak about topics that for fields you're not in. I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you everything about medical malpractice and birth injury cases. I can speak as eloquently about those topics as an attorney can. And that's a skill that I honestly feel like I developed from being an English major.
Must make you a big hit at parties too, I'm guessing. Right?
Oh, that's who wants to know about truck accident statistics,
Those
everyone?
are interesting. It's at parties you pick up these contacts. So have anybody, Rochelle or Wafa, you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, I'd also, kind of going based off what the other panelists said, rhetoric has really come into play a great deal, just because we are speaking with different audiences. And so being able to talk to like this really aggressive like driver who really wants to like, where's my money, where's like, you know, being able to communicate effectively with him, and then the sweet plumber who just wants to like get his job done, you know, like being able to switch audiences and create arguments. I think that's been really helpful because, you know, in English, like I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm writing an essay, I'm coming up with my thesis, but it's like that actually translates into the way I present like my SEO findings and like backing up research that way. So it's not just like, oh, read a book, figure out like your argument. It leaks into all other aspects of life.
These are such great points. Rochelle, please.
Yeah, and I was going to say that that's Wafa, similar to what I was about to say is, you know, what we learn as English majors is how do you look at something in a way that no one's looked at it before, and having a unique perspective and being able to approach something that's maybe been done year after year after year the same way, and being able to look at it and say, well, what about this? Or how do you guys handle this? Or even just asking the right questions. I can't tell you how many times I've had employers say, wow, you ask great questions. And like just things like that, that like you're sort of thinking about things critically, like Shelley mentioned. And also, this is going to be like the stupidest little like, duh, of course you do know how to do this, but knowing how to write a good email, like again, in a way that like you don't even think, you're like, oh, I didn't, you know, whatever, I'm just writing an email. But like so much of business, right, especially right now, is conducted over email. And again, the amount of times I've had employers say you write well, and I'm like, you know, just writing an email. Like, I don't know, you're not really seeing me write an essay. I don't know what you're talking about. But those two things pretty consistently over my adult career, people have pointed out, and I think goes a long way towards showing, again, you don't have to know how to do everything right away, but if you can show some of these skills, then you're impressive enough to be considered for that interview or that promotion, or even in that job in the first place.
Oh, I think your point about email is one that people should carve somewhere or have on a t-shirt. You know, in today's world, often email is the only way we know people. In a global industry, we may never meet these people we're emailing with. So every impression they have of you is solely through email, maybe these days through Zoom, but most of it's going to be through email because it takes up too much time. So yeah, these are really great points. So I want to move a little bit to, you know, from to people I know we have from our the roster we have of people attending today. A lot of them are current students. So to help them think about where they're going after graduation, what do you wish you'd known or done as an undergrad that would have helped you prepare for your post-graduation life? And maybe at the same time, I don't know if you think this goes along with it, what additional skills and expertise might you suggest that students think about acquiring now if they can? But yeah, maybe that's too much of two questions, but what do you wish you'd known, and what would you do differently if you knew then what you know now? Let's see, how about Rochelle? I know you just talked, but why don't you go?
Sure. I think the thing that I was thinking about this question a lot, and there are honestly, a lot of things I wish I had known as an undergrad. Like many of you, I'm first generation, so I didn't have anyone to tell me how to do this, or how to apply to school, how to do well in school, how to figure out what you want to do. Because again, we've picked a major that's flexible. We don't have a defined path, which is the great thing about being an English major, but it also means that you have to spend some time thinking. You have, like, it's necessary in order for you to figure out what you're doing after you graduate. But I think the thing that I wish I had known, or maybe really acted on a little bit more, was you have to be your own advocate and champion for your career and professional development. It doesn't matter that we have this panel. It doesn't matter that we have these resources. None of that matters if you're not going to take the time to think about these things and then act on them. I would hope that since you all are here, that's a good sign that you are taking this seriously. But it's really up to you to spend that time figuring it out and then looking for the resources that you have, even though you're working to pay for school, even though you're taking 1 million units and it's stressful. It really is up to you. But then the other side is that there are people who want you to succeed and who are there to help you. And I would imagine, again, that all of us on this call are those people who want to help you succeed. I didn't know or didn't think about at all as a student that you have a built-in network in CSUN alumni. And I'm not saying this just because I work for this office, but like people are there to help you and they want to see you succeed. So you're not on your own, but the initiative and the drive has to come from you. So there you go.
Ah, that's great. We can get you in student advising, Rochelle. That's wonderful. And Shelley, you know, in your excellent answers, you had brought up something to that question I thought was so insightful, and I would never occur to me in a million years. So maybe you could share that with us now.
Which
What
one are you
you
referring
wish you'd done as an undergrad? And you said,
Oh, what I wish I'd done as an undergrad. I wish I had just been honest and just straight up told my friends and family and professors that I had no clue what I wanted to do. Instead, I kind of built up this like auto answer because everybody's like, oh, what are you gonna do with an English degree? And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to law school, or I might go, you know, be a high school teacher, or maybe I'll be an editor. I didn't even know what that meant, right? I wish I had just not given those answers thinking that's what other people wanted to hear, and had just been honest and said, I don't know, please help me. I probably would have received some amazing suggestions from my faculty about, you know, doing internships or volunteer experiences, or, you know, get yourself over to the Career Center and talk to people and get help with your resume, your interview skills, and your, you know, find out who you want to be after this degree. So for me, that's kind of my biggest, like, you know, I'm so many years out. I graduated in 1990 with my BA. That's what I wish I'd known and done at that time.
that is so great. It's completely not obvious, but I wish I had done the same thing. We always feel like we have to know what we're doing, but it's so helpful if we could say, I don't know, what do you think? Like, you've gotten some feedback. That'd be great. How about you, Michael?
I would
wish you had
say,
differently. You did a lot. 5 degrees.
yeah, I'd say that while I was focused a lot on all those different degrees, getting high GPA, things like that, I did do 2 internships while I was at CSUN, but honestly, there was no reason why I shouldn't have been doing one every year. Like, and I'd honestly suggest that to every undergraduate, paid or unpaid. That experience is invaluable. Preferably go for a paid one. They're a lot more available now, and don't wait for someone to give you that path though. Don't wait for a class. Don't wait for your advisor. We have a career center, and really use it. Also, I also used to interview people and hire people for some positions, Scorpion, and work on your soft interview skills. Practice that a lot. I think that a lot of English majors, myself including, public speaking may have not come naturally, or speaking in a group panel, you may have never been interviewed by 8 people at once, and it's terrifying. So get a group of friends, get some faculty, and start working on these skills that aren't part of your degree, but are just as valuable to making sure you're a success.
This is wonderful. Wafa, how about you? Anything else you would have, something you wish you'd known or would encourage students now to think about doing while they're still in school?
Definitely, I agree with everyone what they've said about internships, about taking initiative with your career path, and just being open to like, you know, because similar to what others have said, like I thought I had this like clear path where I'm like, this is the straight shot. Like I didn't really allow myself to like look different ways, because I was like, oh no, that's my path. I'm not gonna like, and I also like, I don't know if it's because I'm a first generation like immigrant like family, or like I just felt like, okay, I need to do this and I need to do this fast, like by, you know, 24 I should have my master's, like by, you know, like I had this like strict timeline, which don't put that pressure on yourself. Like honestly, when you're in school, take advantage of the resources, and especially at CSUN, it is one of the best universities. They really care about their students, and like hit up Rochelle or, you know, like talk to Shelly, like they're there for you. And I wish I had known that. I wish I took advantage. Even like with the internship, I didn't do that until my last semester at like college. And then once you're out, it's so much harder to get internships, or like those entry level positions where it's like you need it to get experience, but you can't get the experience until you have that, you know, it's like this vicious cycle. So definitely take advantage of that. And especially at a place like CSUN, I highly recommend talking to different people in different positions. Like from my experience, everyone is so warm and welcoming, and like they're so generous with their time. And, I'll just like pop into different professors' offices and they'd be kind enough to talk to me and answer questions, or, even just like, hey, Kathy, like, I'm interested in da da da. And like, you were so nice about sharing just information, and just everyone has their own life experiences. Everyone's got like went through different paths to get where they are. So just find that out, because something of their journey might help you along with yours. So I think that's been like, I wish I knew that back then.
Uh, I hope people are taking notes, and of course we're going to record this and people can watch it again. But I think what you all are saying is so essential. Wafa, you talk about talk. Most people like to talk about what they do, and they're happy to share that. But it also can save you some time. In my post graduation, my retirement life, I worked very closely with the director of our library out here, and she shared with me that most people who want to go into library science or information science picture themselves in the corner with a whole bunch of good books, like Wendy's background, if we could see it, but that's not what it's. Customer service. And the best thing you can do to be a librarian is work at Taco Bell. I am not kidding. And so if you're thinking, oh, it's just going to be me in a room with some books, talking to a librarian can save you some time and a graduate degree you may not want to get. So this is really, really important to have people share their wisdom. People love to share wisdom, and there are so many resources, and it's just so much. You think you're busy now, but you'll be busier when you're working. And so while you're on campus, take advantage of these wonderful, wonderful resources. So
Kathy, can I add real quick? Beth
Please,
reminded me with what she posted. Student assistant jobs on campus.
Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
Wafa, I think you did an internship where you worked on campus in some way. I didn't know those were a thing that existed until I started working at CSUN and now work with student assistants. And I think, good Lord, how much more prepared these people are going to be than I was when I left, because they have that, even if it isn't exactly what they're going to be doing in the future, but it's that office experience that you don't get oftentimes until you graduate, and maybe even a few years after that. There's nothing wrong with customer service jobs. Obviously, I did it for a long time. It's what paid for me to go to CSUN as an undergrad. But if you're able to and you're interested, really look into those student assistant jobs on campus, because you'll get some great experience and great contacts. We've hired student assistants for full-time positions in our office, and I'm sure others have as well. So
that's such a good point. Look at Shelley Thompson as the poster child, I think, poster girl from student assistant to director of my goodness, that's a golden arc right there. So yeah, that's really good advice. And I know I didn't give any office experience until I was in my 30s, and that's such a valuable part of a professional career, understanding how to behave in an office. So that's invaluable. Thank you. So I'm going to ask kind of the last question. I'm in the same boat as Beth. I can't find it. What is the last, I guess, what is one or two or many tips as you want to give us for job seekers, either about preparing to be marketable while still in school, or seeking, applying, interviewing? Michael, you brought up something that, boy, if I'd heard that as an undergraduate, I'd have been all over it. $10, $20 a page, I'd have been right there. How do you go about that? What are the tips you have for doing that successfully? And or what's the best additional thing students can think of to make themselves marketable? How do they, when they send in that resume, how do they make sure their resume gets pulled out of that pile and called in for an interview? What's the things to do? So Michael, you're unmuted, so take it away.
This is golden tip. Like, anyone who's applying for a writing position that is not academic, please, please, please look at samples in the field that you're applying for. Do not submit an academic essay. Do not do not send anything that doesn't fit the genre you're in. Do a little bit of time, a little bit of research. Maybe even take some freelance jobs related to the field that you're going to be applying for, like that big time position in, and make it sound like you already have the style down, that you are already kind of pre-trained, because you're going to save everyone a lot of time. It shows that you have that initiative. Also, just be really curious and do your legwork ahead of time. So for Scorpion, I went all over their website, learned all about the fields they were in, and came into that interview knowing about the business, knowing about the culture, the mission. Anyone applying to Google or a mid-sized to large-sized company, you should know the culture, the value statements, and just kind of what's expected before you come in the room. It should be more conversation rather than them downloading what they're expecting of you.
Mhm. Excellent. That's a pro tip right there. Yeah. Anybody else want to jump in on that? I know we have lots and lots of experience here and expertise to share.
You know, I can, Michael that was one of the things I wanted to say too. I think it's an excellent point. I would say be willing to consider applying for or accepting job offers that are maybe completely outside of your comfort zone. Just because it's outside of your comfort zone doesn't mean you can't do it. It doesn't mean you can't be great at it. And you may really discover a career pathway that brings you great joy and fulfillment.
Mhm. Wow, excellent advice. Yeah. Wafa or Rochelle, anything else?
Oh, go ahead, Wafa. Yeah.
Sorry. I would say don't underestimate yourself. Like apply broadly. You know, just because you think you only have skill sets for this one position doesn't mean that's true, because honestly, like, you know, working retail, working these jobs that you're like, oh, these are just like things that got me through. They gave you those like foundational skill sets that a lot of employers are looking for. And then the other thing that I would highly recommend is look up the base salaries for positions you're applying for, because oftentimes employers like within the interview, they'd be like, what salary are you asking for? And a lot of times, I know I did this, like as an English major, I'm like, you want to pay me? That's great. Like, give me whatever you want, you know? And so I think I undersold myself. So I think knowing what the average rate for, and you'd be surprised like how well writers can get paid in the digital realm, or like, you know, how much people are willing to pay you for your skills. Look up, like go on Glassdoor, go on the different like forums to see what the average salary is, just so you know that you're not underselling yourself. I think.
Yes. Yeah. Always ask in the middle of the range, or ask. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Again, what Rochelle said and other people said, research. A lot of the research needs to happen before you start job hunting. Absolutely. And Rochelle?
Yeah, I was gonna say, similar to what Wafa said, don't reject yourself. Let them reject you. It'll happen. You'll get used to it. You also be prepared to not hear back from people. That's gonna happen. But one of the things I was gonna say is the reality is there are plenty of jobs that are never even posted in order for you to apply to them. So get comfortable now with networking. And it sounds crappy and I hate it and I don't like it either. And I'm sure as English people, maybe we're a little bit more introverted and we like to sit there and read and we don't want to talk to people we don't know. Learn how to talk to people you don't know, because there are so many jobs that don't even make it to a public posting. And it's about being in the right place at the right time, knowing the right person, talking to the right person. There have been multiple instances in my life where I have been in the right place at the right time, talking to the right person who has referred me to a job. It's not because you're not talented. The reason they're referring you is because they think that you've demonstrated your skill. So it's not about necessarily nepotism, but it is about getting yourself out there and being in the right place at the right time. And then the last thing I was going to say is, I definitely agree. Take a look at the site, the place that you're applying to. But one of the things that I've learned over the last few years, and again, this is specific to working maybe for a smaller company, smaller nonprofit, is take a look at their staff and see the titles that are there. Because if you're seeing like one manager and 10 coordinators, let me tell you, the chances of you getting promoted in that space are pretty rare. And that's fine, maybe for an entry level job, maybe for a year, maybe for 2, but like Wafa said, you kind of peak, right? You don't want to be in that same position forever. And it's fine to go somewhere else, but just to be aware of the titles and the structure of the organization that you're looking to apply to. And if you care about that room for growth, which, eventually you will, just note if that seems like that's possible in the place that you're looking to apply.
Okay. Is anything, I mean, feel free to jump in if things are coming up that jar something for you, because we're winding up, but I'm not seeing any questions in the chat room set, so I think we have a little bit more time. So, Wafa, I saw you unmuted
yeah.
yourself.
And this is like, I don't know, maybe Mike can speak on this, but I remember, I forgot who told me, but like after an interview, send a thank you note. Like, I think Kathy, you mentioned this. Kathy, you're just like my guru. But like send a thank you note, like a handwritten thank you note to your interviewer. And honestly, like, I think that made me stand out from the rest of the like batch, like interviewing batch. So just those like little personal touches, I think go a long way.
Yes, I agree. I thank you. Of course, I'm going to agree with myself, right? Thank you, Wafa. But I can't tell you how many students, I stay in touch with a lot of students, and I can't tell you how many have told me that they were told they were hired because they were the person who wrote the thank you note. And that, oh, I'm just going to get a quick plug for the English department. Speaking of which, you know, some of these genres are not obvious. To Michael's point about looking at the genre, and don't send in your you know, English whatever, I don't know, 605 paper for a marketing position. But those genres are not necessarily intuitive or obvious. And I think it's kind of a shame that English majors go through without taking a business writing class. But you can take English 407, which is, I believe it's English for, I don't know what the actual title is, but you do go through the genres. Oh, Beth's going to tell us. Beth, what is it? Maybe.
It is writing for the professions.
Oh, thank you. See, that's perfect. Writing for the professions. So you'll end up with relevant writing samples, a curriculum, I mean, a CV or / resume, a cover letter, all the things you need, and you'll know how to write a memo and how to keep a blog and have some samples to actually show an employer. So that's something else you can do while you're still at CSUN. Michael, I didn't mean to run over you. Oh, and but Beth, sorry.
First of all, this has been fantastic. Really, really fantastic. I never had anything like this when I was going out on the job market. So I'm really grateful to everybody today. We've been kind of talking about two terms that come up a lot, and you read them, you see them in newspaper articles. And I'm wondering if you could just be really specific about what soft skills mean and what hard skills mean, because everybody's always talking about how humanities majors have better soft skills. What are we talking about?
Michael's nodding. I think he's ready.
So for me, and other people on the panel may define this differently, but when I say soft skills, there's everything from being able to translate information just verbally to someone, just communication skills, being able to take something really complex, really not dumb it down, but make it really concise and easy to digest for someone else. Versus like, I think of a hard skill would be something more like learning technical SEO, how to set up 301 or 404 redirects, things that require you to actually spend some time learning it, that don't develop naturally over time is kind of how I would define it, but I'll let other smarter people on this panel jump in here.
I think it's a big term. So does anybody else want to talk about that? Because it covers a lot of ground. I think Michael's absolutely right. But I think there's additional nuances to it. Does anybody else? I mean, I think these panelists all really demonstrate excellent soft skills. So they're probably not even aware of it, but they're there. Nobody? I know when I taught in the accounting department at CSUN, one of the things we really focus on was students, because CSUN students have the knowledge. They've got the technical expertise. The soft skills, what we worked on, it boiled down to, can they send you to dinner with a client? Are you going to be able to represent the organization that you work for? Communication skills, a little bit of polish, good listening skills. Those are so rare if you've ever dealt with customer service on the phone. And the ability to go off script and do it eloquently. The ability to recognize, and what Michael's talking about in an interview, you know, represent yourself and what you do well, and be able to speak about it eloquently. Rochelle's point about telling that story, I think all those are soft skills as well. But
and what you were saying, you know, to connect it to things you actually do in class, I think what Kathy's talking about is all of our presenters today were able to have a discussion where they indicated that they'd heard what their, let's say for the sake of argument, classmate said. As Rochelle said earlier, as Shelley said earlier, I want to tag on to what Wafa said. Those kinds of things that your faculty members are trying to get you to do in the classroom, in group discussions, and the stuff you get asked to do in like that awful, horrible thing called group work that y'all hate. Like that's where those kinds of skills that we're talking about come from. And the hard skills, are the things like statistics that you can go take a class on, or a computer language that you can go get trained in. But really the kind of discussion and ability to work with other people is part of what we're talking about with soft skills. So thank you all for that. I'm looking, I see, a question.
Yay.
I know this is mainly for college students, but any tips or advice for people who might want to jump straight from a GED or high school education into the industry?
Anybody? I don't know if the panel, I saw that question. I don't know if Alexis wants to elaborate at all on any particular industry, maybe marketing, or I think it depends on what area Alexis is looking at.
Yeah.
So Alexis,
Wafa, did you want to go first?
Oh,
please.
no, you can go first if you got it.
I'd say there's it's going to be kind of a Google Wafa recommendation, so it's kind of funny that you also unmuted. It's get yourself on Google and just look up if it's going to be in humanities or writing, freelancing writing positions or freelance jobs, and start just learning to write in different industries. You don't need to go to college to be able to be a writer for a marketing company or for any other kind of company. A lot of times, a couple years in there, you network, you become familiar with certain clients that always hire you. They're not going to take a second look at your degree. They're going to say, wow, you've been writing for us for 4+ years. Your writing's fantastic. Are you available? Because they don't want to lose you because you've learned their voice. So just becoming really good about communicating with what will become your clients on these like free services.
I was also that's a great point. And then I was also going to say, just like finding an entry-level position anywhere like that aligns with your interest. And even if it's outside your comfort zone, it might turn into something like you never expected, but that's what you actually want to do. So for example, like my sister, she is an event planner. That's what she loves doing. And when she was in high school, she was one of the like not little workers, but she had a part-time job at Pump It Up, which is like a kids place where they have birthday parties. But like she used that as leverage to get a job at CSUN at the Soraya as an event planner there. So it's like, use like especially in, like, I understand like high school, it's like you have so much to do, so much going on, but like if you have a part-time job, if you have something, you can leverage that for new like roles. You don't need to go to college. You can use that as your entry into different roles.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, again, I don't really know what the industry is that's this question is speaking to, but also remember, like, you don't need to work for someone else. If it's an industry where you feel like you can sort of do it yourself, meaning kind of be self-employed or create your own business, do that. You don't have to go to someone else to get that experience. But by that, if you are going to go that route, I do again sort of really emphasize the networking component and going to the right places, joining the right associations, whatever, where those people are going to be. For me in the literary arts, it was going to readings, going to things like that, and getting to know the local literary community. And then also, I was going to say, oh my God, forgot. I think I'll just leave it at that. Networking.
Can I jump in there, Kathy, for a second? Because you talked a lot about internships and you talked about the internship class. And I just want to let people know what's going on. The English department has had an internship class for many, many years. We did suspend that class during the chaos of the pandemic. And we are looking at, I think, because there is so much that is unknown about what the world is going to look like after we're allowed out into the world again in a larger way. So we're working on revamping that in the short term and for the long term. In the meantime, that's why I posted many things in the chat, locations where you can go and find information about internships. And I would also encourage everybody who's on here today, if you aren't following the CSUN English Facebook page, or you have friends who aren't following the English CSUN Facebook page, or not Facebook, Instagram page, you should be, they should be, make sure they are. We get a lot of information that come in. We get things that come in looking for interns, and we always post that information on Instagram. We do not send it out in emails anymore because we do know that students don't read their emails. And that email is not the preferred form of communication. And that is not a criticism. That's just a reality. So please make sure you tell everyone you know to be following that page, and make sure you're following it yourself. Because if we have information about internships, we're going to make sure to push it out that way.
So true.
Yeah, those were my two things.
Yeah, I think that really ties into what Rochelle said earlier. See there, I did that English major thing about being your own advocate. I know everybody's busy, but I would say that no matter where you are in life, you've learned to multitask, and it's really, really, really important. I know just since our publishing industry panel, we've had notification of job distribution, job boards that come out on a listserv, other jobs, and there's a panel coming up through the Alumni Association where an English alum is working at pretty high up at Sony. So there's a contact to make right there. I mean, this stuff comes thick and fast, and it comes often, and you're missing opportunities if you're not taking, putting down your feed and whatever you have to do on Facebook to make sure it's the first thing you see, because this information is there, and someone's going to catch it. It might as well be you, I think. I want to close with one quick question, if I can, Beth, because it just occurred to me. I know a lot of us, when we were in school is lots of fun, and we're learning a lot of cool things, and sometimes, especially if it's unknown, work can seem like this big gray blur, or we think we're going to end up with something that's not going to be, utilize our talents. So tell me, I've heard some stuff already. I know when I worked with the pharmaceutical industry, I never would have guessed this. One of the cool things about it was I got all this free food and all these free clothes. Would never have seen that. It was super cool. I loved it. So tell me, maybe each of you can tell me something cool about where you work, or if not this current job, the one you last had. That's just cool, because Wafa, I saw what your coworkers were doing for you on Facebook. So maybe you can start.
Okay, so I think Scorpion is special. Like, they genuinely treat their employees so well. Like, honestly, I can't even like tell you all the cool things, and I kind of don't want to, just because I don't want this to be like the bar everyone compares jobs to. But like, honestly, like, we have free meals. Like, we had a like cafe and cafeteria where we got free food. We had a gym. We had outings, so we would go to really cool places like the Magic Castle whenever we hit a goal or something. The coworkers are so incredibly sweet. Like, you probably saw, like, everyone's birthdays, we decorate their like desks and make them feel really like warm. And so, I mean, it's been really cool. And now I feel like I can't work anywhere else, like, if you're not going to give me free food, or like, I'm like, I don't know if I can work there anymore. But yeah, it's been really nice. Like, they're just lovely people.
Awesome. See, this makes everybody excited to go on. How about you, Rochelle? What's cool about where you work?
So both this job but especially I think my last job, we plan parties, right, for office coworkers, blah, blah, whatever. And it's probably the closest I've ever gotten to having an experience like the office, of being on the party planning committee. And there's something about that being part of your job that's actually really fun, that you like. We used to, at my old job, not this one, but we had full-on themed parties. I think mine was like a 90s hip hop theme one year, but like full-on themed parties. And so it just always reminded me of The Office. I don't know if people still watch that. I don't know if I'm dating myself there, but a lot of fun, that kind of social aspect of throwing a weird party with your coworkers.
Cool. How about you, Shelley? Of course, you're very executive and very high, thin air kind of level, but what's cool about where you work?
Well, there's lots of cool in general about CSUN, but I think one of the greatest things is I got to get my master's for free. We have an employee fee waiver program. So I'd already paid for my bachelor's degree, started working. Everybody I worked with throughout my time at Northridge supported me in advancing my career. So they encouraged me to apply for higher positions. They encouraged me to learn. And then I got to take advantage of fee waiver and get that second degree at no cost.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
If
and
I could, sorry.
Please.
If I could comment on Shelley's office, because I have worked in Shelley's office for a period of time. So from the sublime, you know, getting your degree paid for, to the ridiculous, they do have donuts. I've been in there. People bring donuts, they bring food. Like, there's always something you really shouldn't be eating, but you want to be eating, and there it is. I think that's one thing that people don't know about workplaces. Like, no matter where you are, if you're in a good workplace, if you're in a functioning workplace, people are good to each other. There are things that happen amongst those people, and it doesn't matter whether you're in publishing or whether you're in teaching. I've worked in publishing, I've worked in teaching. What matters is that you find the right fit for yourself and the right fit in terms of an office environment that has a successful record.
Oh, good point. And Michael, I know one cool thing about your job is you got recruited away. They wooed you. What's cool about your new position?
So there's kind of two major things that are a little bit more on the, I guess, like being a realist. One, their salary offer was just very nice, in the sense that it was enough that I love Scorpion, similar to Wafa, but it was such a large jump that it went from me, you know, renting an apartment to being able to actually probably next year buy my first home. So like, that's nice jump there. The other thing was I now travel a lot for work. I'm client facing, so I get to go state to state meeting my clients, international travel as well. So like, all that being covered, it's just kind of part of my responsibility. And I'm like, that's not a bad responsibility. I'll go to Texas next week, well, not next week, once COVID becomes a little bit more, you know, things are a little bit safer, but they're really good about just being, saying, hey, would you be open to doing X, to make this relationship better, such as like, travel is kind of like that same thing as like, are you open to go meeting them for the first time? Of course, let me do a little prep work, things like that. But yeah, I think probably one of the biggest benefits were those two.
Way to wind up there, Michael. Okay, I think we're just at the end of our allotted time, huh, Beth? Yeah, so I'm going to thank all the panelists from the bottom of my heart for taking time off today and sharing such wonderful information. I learned a lot. I'm hoping everybody in the audience did. I know it's a sunny Saturday. I know some of us are looking forward to the Passover Seder tonight. So it's a day when a lot of people are occupied, but Wendy tells me that our first panel has already been viewed 52 times. So I'm hopeful that even if people couldn't make this in person, that once we get it up on the various channels, people will be able to, as Beth says, tell your friends that this is something that they should watch, because they're going to pick up a whole, if I'd had this as an undergrad, who knows where my life would have ended up. So, but then I might not have met y'all. So it was.
And yes, I can reassure you that the link will be available probably starting Monday. And you can go exactly to the same place where you went to sign up and register for this panel, for the previous panel. We have been hosting a lot of information on that page, and Wendy had posted the link to that page early on. So if you scroll back in the chat, it'll be there. You can review this if you feel like you missed some information. I also want to offer, if you come up with a question for one of our panelists or just a general question after that you wish you'd asked, please just email me. I'm putting my email address again in the chat, and I will make sure that your question gets to the right person. I too want to thank all of our panelists today. One of the worst things about the whole pandemic is not getting to see students, because I know how fantastic our students are and I really miss them. So thank you to the alums who came back today to talk to everyone. It's great just to see you, like we miss you. And for those of you who have come today, I hope you'll join me in thanking them for taking the time, for offering such fantastic information. And once again, to Kathy Leslie, who really is the guiding spirit behind this. And she's very passionate about these issues for our alumni. So we are really grateful to have Kathy in our corner. And I hope you'll join us all. There'll be one more panel. The description is up on the landing page, the RSVP page. You'll see more flyers coming out about it. And that one again is going to be quite a practical kind of a discussion with a professional who helps people understand how to get jobs.
Also,
So,
oh, Beth, real quick.
please go ahead.
The third panel will not be recorded because he's a published author and his publisher does not want him to record it. They control his media appearances. So please, again, tell your friends, as Beth said, tell everybody, because it's a one-shot opportunity for that one. But over Craig Leaner's career, he has held, I think, just about every position in any English major considers a dream job. So this is one to tune into just to hear his story and to hear his tips. Yeah, and you got to be there. So hopefully we'll see all of you.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I hope you have a lovely afternoon and evening. I myself am going outside now. Maybe I'll, pass you masks somewhere out there. Have a great day. Have a great rest of your weekend. And we will see you again in April.
And thank you.